So, shortly before Bhakti Charu Swami left his body, he gave a lecture where he discusses the poisoning issue of Srila Prabhupada, where Srila Prabhupada had complained of being poisoned. And I think he gave this lecture trying to consolidate all the different arguments about this issue to try to downplay the severe crisis that this issue really was. And in his most recent discussion about the poison issue, he admits that some Bengali gentleman came and he was just an anonymous person that was not really known, but he was told by Prabhupada in Bengali that he was being poisoned. So this is very strange. How could Prabhupada not trust his own people, but trust just some anonymous person off the street and tell him that he's being poisoned? And part of the problem is really that everyone did know that Prabhupada had said to this man that I'm being poisoned. It wasn't just some private conversation. Bhakti Charu was aware that Prabhupada had told this man that he was being poisoned. So he wasn't just telling this anonymous person only, he was also telling Bhakti Charu, because he was speaking in Bengali and he knew that Bhakti Charu understood Bengali. So Bhakti Charu keeps saying, well, Prabhupada never really talked to his intimate, trusted circle of people about being poisoned, but Bhakti Charu was part of that intimate circle. And as soon as he heard that, he went and told Tamal Krishna, who was also part of the circle. So they were all aware that Prabhupada was saying he was being poisoned. So it's rather odd that Bhakti Charu keeps saying, well, if Prabhupada had really thought this was a crisis, he would have brought it to our attention. Well, he was bringing it to your attention. So we're going to get to Bhakti Charu's actual statements here in just a few minutes, but we wanted to give just a little brief history of how and why he was even talking about this issue. So there was a number of statements that were made by Prabhupada in 1977 about poisoning, and other statements that he made that seemed to indicate that he was not being taken care of by his so-called servants. For example, Srila Prabhupada says, don't move me to the hospital, better to kill me here. Swarup Damodar, we won't, Srila Prabhupada. Bhavananda, never. Prabhupada, but if you are disgusted, that is another thing. Room Conversation, October 22, 1977. Prabhupada, this is my only request, that at the last stage, don't torture me and put me to death. November 3, 1977. Why would anyone have to say, do not torture me and put me to death, unless he was being tortured and put to death? Prabhupada, someone says that I've been poisoned. It's possible. Kaviraj, what is he saying? Prabhupada, someone says that someone has given poison. Kaviraj, to whom? Prabhupada, to me. Kaviraj, who said? Prabhupada, these all friends. Kaviraj, who would give you poison? Why would anyone do that? Prabhupada, I do not know, but it is said. Kaviraj, look, this is the thing, that maybe some Rakshasa demon gave him poison. Bhakti Charu, someone gave him poison here. Okay, that's Bhakti Charu. Someone gave him poison here. Tamal Krishna, Prabhupada was thinking that someone had poisoned him. Bhakti Charu, yes. Tamal Krishna, that was the mental distress. Bhakti Charu, yes. Kaviraj, if he says that, there must definitely be some truth in it. Tamal Krishna, what did the Kaviraj just say? Bhakti Charu, he said that when Srila Prabhupada was saying that, there must be some truth behind it. Now, it turns out that some of the people around Prabhupada were whispering about poison and about poisoning him. And so when he says, Ye Sab friends are talking about me being poisoned, he's talking about the people around him. My friends, my servants, the people around me are saying that I am being given poison. Otherwise, who are the Yesab friends? Who else could they be other than the associates he had around him at the time? So it is said by them. They're talking about poisoning. And there's incriminating whispers that we have found on these audio tapes where they are talking about poisoning. So when the Yesab friends are talking, he heard that. So he was aware that they were talking about poisoning him, and that's what he refers to here. So there were a number of incriminating conversations going on around this time discussing poison, and I'm really not going to get into all of those details right now because they're very extensive. But suffice it to say that the people in the room with Prabhupada at that time in November 1977 were aware that he was saying he was being given poison. And he was being given poison by someone, and that someone was a Rakshasa, a demon. And the reason I got this original poison tape, the poison tape was hidden to start with. The reason I got it is that I was asking for a copy of this poison tape. It was not available to the devotees or to the public or to anyone. So I was praying to Krishna to get me this tape, which I had understood was existing somewhere. So a devotee gave me this tape, and he was the devotee who saw Bhakti Charu outside of Prabhupada's room crying in 1977. And Bhakti Charu said he was crying because Prabhupada had just complained that he's being poisoned. So Bhakti Charu is outside Prabhupada's room. He's crying. He's crying because Prabhupada says he's being poisoned. And yet he's not alerting anybody. He's not alerting the authorities. He's not alerting the devotees. He's keeping it quiet. And he's kept it quiet all along. And now all of a sudden he comes out and tells us, well, yeah, by the way, some Bengali guy came by, and Prabhupada told that Bengali guy he was being poisoned in my presence. So I heard that as well. So this is an additional evidence that Bhakti Charu knew that Prabhupada was complaining about being poisoned. So there are various websites where this information is available, the full transcripts of the poison tape and the surrounding conversations around that tape in November are available online in many locations. And the whispers, the incriminating whispers, are also available as audio clips. You can actually hear them. So I suggest that people who wanted to research this should go to those sites and find out more about it if they're interested. The main purpose of this tape is to show this additional evidence that Bhakti Charu is admitting that Prabhupada was saying to some Bengali gentleman that he was being given poison. So this is something he had not disclosed previously. This is new information, and it just adds to the pile of previous information, incriminating information. So that means Bhakti Charu was crying. He knew that Prabhupada was saying he was being poisoned, and he covered it up. He covered it up, and he promoted the people that he knew were the main suspects in the poisoning situation as gurus and as Prabhupada's successors. So he knows Prabhupada's complaining of being poisoned. He knows the main suspects are the people in the room with Prabhupada, and yet he goes ahead and says the main suspects are Prabhupada's successors. And then we wonder why there's been so many problems in ISKCON. If you're promoting the people who are the main suspects of poisoning Prabhupada, and you're promoting them as God's successors, then there's going to be chaos and problems and hellish situations. There's just no other way around it. So this was a test, I believe, to all these people. Bhakti Charu says he would have told more people. Well, no, it doesn't matter. He told you. You're responsible. It doesn't matter if he told one person, and you are that one person. If you are that one person, then you are responsible. If somebody tells you there's a bomb on the airplane and it's going to blow up in 30 minutes, and you know that, and you just sit back in your seat and don't say anything, and the plane blows up, you're responsible. It's your duty to notify everybody, hey, we got to land the plane. We got to exit everybody off the plane. That's your duty. That's your responsibility. So Bhakti Charu knew there's this big problem going on. Prabhupada says, don't torture me and put me to death. Prabhupada says, I'm feeling mental distress because someone's giving me poison. There's so much other incriminating evidence, the whispers, the forensic analysis of his hair, which is finding heavy metal poisoning, and so on and so forth. And Bhakti Charu is aware of all this stuff, and he just sits on it and says and does nothing about it. But at the very end of his life, he decides to make some kind of odd statement about the poisoning. I think it was gnawing at his conscience that he knew all this and he didn't say anything. So at the very end, he comes out and says, okay, yeah, by the way, some Bengali guy came by. Prabhupada told him I'm being poisoned, and I heard that conversation. So, without further ado, we are going to start to play Bhakti Charu's statement starting here.
He gave this medicine, which is very, very strong. And anyway, so Damodar Prasad actually came to Vrindavan to prepare Makaradhaj for Srila Prabhupada, but he never spoke about Makaradhaj. He was actually concerned how to improve Srila Prabhupada's condition. And Adridharan Prabhu was staying in the same room with him. And he told me that at times at night you'd see Damodar Prasad is sitting on his bed and in dark. And when Adri asked, he said that he is actually so concerned about Srila Prabhupada's condition. And anyway, so then Prabhupada's condition Prabhupada's condition actually deteriorated even further. Prabhupada started to feel very uneasy. He got some pain and chest burn and such things. Damodar Prasad was trying to treat Srila Prabhupada. And it's around that time Prabhupada actually spoke about poison. You all may have heard about it, that's why I just wanted to clarify to you all. One day, one Gaudiya Vaishnava, Bengali Gaudiya Vaishnava, quite young, came to Prabhupada, and he came to ask for some donation from Srila Prabhupada because he was building a temple. So Prabhupada told Tamal Krishna Maharaj to give him some money. And so then the person was there, and to him, Prabhupada was saying about poison, as if he had been poisoned. And now, he was the person whom we never seen, and Prabhupada also barely knew him. Maybe early days he had met him once or twice. But Prabhupada's intimate associate in Vrindavan was Bhagatji, one local Vaishnava, and Prabhupada was very close to him. Bhagatji used to come every day, 2-3 times, especially at night he would give a massage to Srila Prabhupada. And if Prabhupada felt that it was such a serious thing, then he would have told Bhagatji or, like Tamal Krishna Maharaj or other devotees who were close to him. But Prabhupada didn't tell anything to anybody, only to this person. And it actually shocked us because Prabhupada was speaking to him in Bengali. And I was the one who understood, and I was the one who translated it to Tamal Krishna Maharaj. We all were shocked to hear that. And then Tamal Krishna Maharaj at one point asked him whether Prabhupada felt that he has been poisoned. And Prabhupada said, no, I'm just talking like that. Which meant that when somebody feels such pain, he feels like as if he has been poisoned, not that he has been poisoned. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that also to you all because either you may have heard about it or you may hear about it in future. So this is the reality. At that time, everyone was praying to Krishna that Prabhupada would continue to stay. Everyone was hoping against hope that some miracle would happen and Prabhupada would continue to live.
So everyone was shocked, but not shocked enough to do anything. Everyone was shocked that Prabhupada was complaining about being poisoned, but they weren't shocked enough to notify the authorities or notify the devotees or notify anyone. So they created the illusion that the poison issue was not significant. It just wasn't important. It wasn't important that the devotees should know this information. They covered it up. The only reason Bhakti Charu is even talking about it now is because we uncovered the issue. We brought out the conversation. We forced the conversation forward. Otherwise, he wouldn't even be talking about it now. So he covered it up. Adridaran told me he was shocked to hear Prabhupada complain about being poisoned. But then Adridaran told me he doesn't want to bring out the issue because it's too controversial. Yes, it's a big controversy. It's a controversy because you made it a controversy, because you hid it and you covered it up. And it's just like every other issue going on in ISKCON. The child molesting. We don't want to talk about it. It's a controversy. The gurus are falling down and having sex and taking drugs. We don't want to talk about it. It's a controversy. In any case, we are glad that Bhakti Charu Swami made this kind of a final admission that there's a lot more to this poison issue than he had previously let on. And he was still covering stuff up right up until the end of his life. This whole incident about the Bengali man coming and Prabhupada telling him he's being poisoned has been hidden. It's been suppressed. And along with everything else that was suppressed. It took us from 1977 to 1997 to get the copy of the poison tape at all. All this was being suppressed and hidden. And it was very dangerous for somebody like me to come out with the tape, which is what even my friend said. My friend said, hey, if you come out with this tape, they're going to kill you. Because by that time, they had created a very fanatical situation. You have to worship the people who are probably the main suspects in poisoning Prabhupada. And if you don't, you're an offender, you're a demon, and all this kind of stuff. So it's a very dangerous situation for us to come out with this information because these guys were hiding it and covering it up. And they covered up everything. They covered up the child molesting to the peril of the society. That's why the society had to be sued for $400 million. They just cover up these kinds of issues, including crimes, including what appears to be the biggest crime of all, Prabhupada saying he is being poisoned. Anyway, we hope this helps people. We could go on and on here. We hope other people just start doing more research on this, and they're going to find a lot of other supporting evidence that Prabhupada said he's being poisoned, said he has the symptoms of a person who is being poisoned, said that his Yesab friends are talking about his being poisoned, And everybody in the room agrees. He says he's being poisoned. Bhakti Charu says someone gave him poison here. It's right on the tape, which they hid. And now, at this late stage, he comes out and says, oh yeah, by the way, we have additional confirmation that Prabhupada was complaining of being poisoned. So, I hope this helps people. I hope it, puts more evidence forward on this issue, and it will add to the ongoing investigation of this issue. Jaya Srila Prabhupada Haribol.